touches on the topic of how most people are unaware that there are these two modalities of thinking, and that they're also unaware of the fact that people will always default to thinking fast because it's resource efficient. Pathways are strong. It costs you little energy compared to thinking slowly. But in today's world, you need to make a conscious decision of whether or not you want to think fast or think slow.
Is that based on the situation that you're in?
Yes, and what your desired outcome wants to be, right? So a good example of that would be, let's say you brush your teeth and you go to the dentist, and all of a sudden the dentist says, you know, your teeth are generally very clean, but here in the front, it's dirty. And they say you've got a hole in the front teeth. And so when you think fast about it, you're just like, oh, I just probably ate too much candy or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But if you think slowly, you start thinking about like, okay, well, what are the causal links for this? Oh, am I missing that area in my mouth every morning when I brush? Right? And so now, in the morning when you brush your teeth, you think, okay, let's see where I brush, if I brush automatically. And by observing, you're already influencing the process, by the way. But you'll notice that maybe you missed that area. And so now for the coming 10 days or so, you're going to think slowly about brushing your teeth a lot more deliberately. And so there's this whole movement around sometimes being a little bit more mindful of things. And so mindfulness and thinking slowly are really closely connected. So being mindful of brushing your teeth is also thinking slowly about what you're doing.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't see that. So I particularly like that book, and the other one is called Blink. It's also by Daniel Kahneman, if I'm not mistaken. And that is, you know, like how you've got a gut feeling about someone or something.
Yeah.
That is your subconscious, automatic systems one thinking, drawing conclusions very, very quickly. They did a study where they showed a bunch of students footage of a professor for, I think it was something ridiculous like 7 seconds or 10 seconds. And then they asked the students, how would you rate this professor if you had a semester with him? What would you think or her? What do you think would their ability be?
Yeah.
And they rated the professor. And then they asked students who's had a semester with that professor do the same rating. The guys who saw them for that short period, 7 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever it was scarily accurate.
There's no way.
In the actual performance and the actual sentiment of the children or the students in the class.
More than the people that had the whole semester with.
It was very closely aligned, meaning that that first few seconds that you have with someone, that first impression is incredibly important, yes. But also, that fast thinking, that gut feel that you have, sometimes is a superpower. And so the question now becomes, how do you harness that?
So one of my mentors always says, you only get 2 chances to make a first impression. First is based on how you look, what you dress like, you know, like you very clean, very smart. And the second is what comes out of your mouth, how you articulate yourself. What are some of the things that you do to leave a lasting first impression when you meet someone?
Interesting. So I've got a very hands-on experience of that physical appearance component, right? And the reason why is because I used to have long hair like this. Black nails.
Is that where that picture comes from?
Yeah. Okay. and in corporate, I used to have long hair and I used to not tie it. Right?
Okay.
And what was interesting is I usually broke people's perspective about me because my vocal image and my vocal presentation, because I'm a very articulate person, not to sound arrogant, but that's just one of my strengths, right, is completely incongruent with someone who's got piercings and long hair. And so it broke a lot of people. And I found that when I had these first interactions with people where I don't have enough time to demonstrate my vocal and mental or cerebral engagement capabilities, they tend to judge me in a very, very derogatory fashion.
Just based on how you look.
Yeah. And so I've come to realize that emulation or modulation of your physical appearance is just as important as what you say. Not that I'm a vanity-orientated person. In fact, I don't care what people look like.
Yeah.
At all. Your hair could be whatever color. Your skin could be whatever color. You could wear whatever you want.
Yeah.
For me, it doesn't really matter. For me, what matters is capability.
Can you produce results?
And results, right? And unfortunately, most people aren't like that. And we're just wired this way. Right? And so as a result, I've spent a little bit more time in modulating my physical appearance in a way that I think the receiving party would perceive it as valuable.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
And we are all doing this subconsciously. Every single one of us, whatever social construct we're involved in. So I'd say, if to answer your question directly, the way that I would approach this is by asking the question, what do I want them to think of me within that first 7-second interaction? And that would serve as the starting point, because interacting with a senior executive at a Fortune 500 company is very different to interacting with a rock star of a famous South African rock band. And you'll have to modulate differently for each of those people. And you'll notice this happen with some prolific people in the world, where they will change their career or change their role temporarily, moving from a investor founder to a CEO, for example. And then you'll see their dressing style will change. The way they carry themselves will change. The hobbies that they keep themselves busy with will change. And that's them effectively modulating their own personality and skills to adhere to this new image that they would like to create, that they think would add value, right?
Okay.
So that's physical appearance.
Yeah.
Verbal and cerebral engagement, I think, is a lot more difficult. And I think that it's a skill that needs to be practiced. The way I learned this skill is by starting conversations with strangers thousands of times, manually.
You remind me of a time when I wanted to improve my communication skills, and I would force myself to approach the most beautiful girl that I could find, and I would force myself. And practicing that and constantly practicing that, I met my fiance.
Oh, wow.
Through that.
That's such a cool story.
Yeah.
So it did pay off, hey?
It paid off big time. Paid off big. If you're watching this, you know it paid off. It paid off big time. So yeah, I like that. I like that approach. Practice makes perfect in many ways.
I think it's also about being comfortable in the situation where you're not comfortable. So if I use your experience of approaching beautiful women and starting a conversation, that's not a particularly comfortable thing to do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But when we draw the analogy to say, well, that's paid off incredibly well for you, there's other scenarios in life where that also applies, that same rule or logic applies. When you're learning a new skill, because speaking to other people is a skill.
Yep.
A skill like programming, a skill like architecture and design, a skill like electronic design. All of these are just skills. But if you're incredibly uncomfortable and you're focusing on the discomfort, you're inhibiting your ability to perform well. So in that particular case where you probably succeeded, you stopped worrying about the fact that I'm uncomfortable and this doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And you were focusing on the upside.
Yep.
And you were focusing on what is possible and potentially making this woman you're speaking with your girlfriend and eventually your fiancée, right?
Yeah.
That's what you were focusing on.
100%. At that time, I was taking a lot of risks. It's just like with entrepreneurship and with trying to make something out of yourself. I've learned that pain and rejection is part of the journey. No matter what you do in life, you're going to face pain and you're going to face rejection.
Yeah.
So it might as well just face pain and rejection on the way to what you want to achieve in life. Because the person who's saying, okay, I don't want to take any risks, I don't want to do anything that's out of my comfort zone, I think that's like the biggest risk that you can take as a person, because you're going to stay the same.
It's an implicit risk that you don't understand the consequences of if you don't put yourself out there.
Yeah.
You know, if I look at the human race and how we've managed to succeed, because we as a human race did beat other competing races like the Neanderthals, for example.
Oh yeah.
Right. And we brutally beat them. It's not a matter of, oh, we just collaborated or worked together. There was competition and they went extinct.
Yeah.
We made them extinct. Now, if we look at that, humans and this whole world we're living in is very competition-based. Yes, there must be winners and losers. But I think the upside in winning has changed in the last few years, and we'll touch on that in a second. But the point that I'm making here is specifically around how embracing pain can be an incredible superpower. Because when you're hungry and winter is on the horizon, stepping out, grouping together a few friends, and taking on a mammoth, with spears and bows and arrows, right?
Yeah,
that's uncomfortable. That's risky, but the upside is incredible. You survive the winter. Today, that's changed a little bit, and that's part of our human spirit. By you not being like that, you're losing out on being human to a certain degree.
By you not going out there, putting yourself in danger for the big win.
By you not embracing pain and discomfort, you're actively discouraging part of being human. Because that is what made us what we are today. Discomfort in making a car, discomfort in deciding to go to the moon, discomfort in basically anything of value.
Childbirth, that's
everything, yeah. One of the biggest and most uncomfortable and painful things to go through breathes life into this world, you know. And so when we talk about pain, I think because things have become a lot easier and we're living in the best time it is to be alive in the world today. Best time.
Everything is easy.
Kings 200 years ago didn't have it as good as the average person today. And so when you think about that, it becomes a question of, oh, things are a little bit too easy. And so our ability and our comfort with this discomfort and pain has gone away and is slowly weaning away. And if we don't actively embrace that, we'll just become weak. So I think in modern society, pain is labeled as something incredibly bad. But my perspective, and to your story about your success with meeting your fiancée, I would argue that there's a certain amount of pain, like Nassim Taleb argues in his book Anti-Fragile, there's a certain amount of pain that is incredibly good for you and incredibly good for your own development. And our job is to stop framing that as bad and frame that as exceptionally good and embrace it. And a lot of the times it's very uncomfortable. And I recall this scenario of me sitting in the 2 degrees Celsius ice bath.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Desperately wanting to get out of that water because it's so damn cold.
Yeah.
But just pushing through the 3 minutes. Not because I want to achieve anything, but because it builds resilience and it builds the capability of embracing pain and labeling it as positive. Yes, it's got other benefits, cognitive, physical.
Yeah.
But the most valuable benefit, in my opinion, is the ability to embrace and relabel pain to be good.
So you speak on pain a lot, and you are someone who's self-taught in this whole programming space, this whole tech industry. You taught yourself how to break into tech, and now you are a two-time founder.
Yeah.
A very successful founder. You worked for Dimension Data. You worked for these big companies. You are doing amazing things. What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced on your journey in the tech industry as a whole?
First of all, thank you for the compliment. And secondly, I'd say the challenges don't stop. I think there's this common perception that you'll make it at some point. It's just the quality of the problems that you need to solve that changes, and the difficulty of those problems. So getting comfortable with solving problems is a requirement. And seeking joy and satisfaction out of that is what will help you drive forward.
Yeah.
I remember very distinctly one of the very first times I was playing around with my own Wi-Fi network at home, and I've been doing tutorials on how to hack. At that point, it was WEP encryption or WEP, and how to hack this wireless network.
Okay.
And I recall incredibly vividly the moment when I managed to achieve that. I was like, I got the password.
Was that very early into your journey?
Yeah, this was 16. I was 16 years old.
Okay.
And that made all the weeks of frustration and struggles worth it. And so there's two lessons that I've learned out of that. The one is persistence and grit.
Yeah.
Like Katie, I think Katie Milkman advocates for grit. But on the other side, it's about celebrating the wins. Oftentimes when you're dissatisfied with where you're at, just taking the time to say, yeah, you made it. You made this program work, right? Even though it's a small step, but give yourself the credit, because it's that actually pushes you forward, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, when it comes to challenges, there's many.
Yeah.
Everything from overcoming personal challenges, overcoming corporate politics challenges, all the way through to, having like $100 left for the entire month, and you're at the second of the month.
Been there.
And you've just spent the money that you've had for 2-minute noodles.
Yeah.
And you're what they say, you can at least survive on ramen, right?
Yeah.
You're not ramen profitable yet, but you've got ramen, And I think that in those scenarios, it's very easy to become despondent or negative. But when you keep focusing on your goal and the upside and the potential, and you see the pain and frustration and struggling as a means to an end, it's an awesome journey, man.
Yeah.
And I'd say that is one of the most valuable things from this entire journey, is that the joy in solving problems every single day, regardless of what they are, right? Be it to get this machine learning model to work, hack this wireless network, or solve this business problem.
Yeah.
That if you take joy in that pursuit of solving problems, you'll be set for life.
And you really do remind me of the story that you shared with me about a week ago of the graduate that came from Melsoft to Otinga that couldn't last because they lacked the grit and the determination to stick it out and thug it out when things went difficult, right? Are there other items that would inspire you when things are difficult? Let's say you've got $100 left, you've got ramen, you've got food at least, you've got a place to stay, hopefully. What are some of the things that kept you going and kept you saying, no, Francois, don't sell out. You don't need to go and look for a job or just, settle for average. What kept you going?
It's a great question. And it's a very personal question as well, right? Because every single person is on their own journey, wherever they are in this world and life, and each of us are actually on a similar journey, heading in a similar direction. And we're all basically just passengers.
Are you referring to death?
Well, no, journey in the sense of where you're going with your life, right?
Okay.
And you're a passenger on this journey of yours, right? And I'm a co-passenger to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
And so when you start thinking about it in that way, there's people who are at various points in that journey, and there's more than one journey. When it comes to things that's really, really tough, it's about having compassion for your own journey and understanding that you're on a journey. Because in today's binary world, where you see all of these Instagram famous people or these billionaires, that you see it as they've already arrived, but they're also on a journey. They also have problems. A lot of them have got a lot bigger problems than you and I have.
True.
And I think that if you remind yourself that it's a journey, that's the first step. The other bit, I think, is a little bit counterintuitive, and it comes from Stoicism and the great Stoics, where they talk about negative visualization and gratitude.
For those that don't understand Stoicism, could you please define what that is?
It's a philosophy that's been popularized by emperors many years ago. Probably one of the most famous Stoics is a man by the name of Marcus Aurelius, and he wrote a bunch of journals,
meditations.
Yeah, that was supposed to be private.
Yeah,
and then it got published, and not in his lifetime, many years after his passing. But during that, he's shared a lot of wisdom that's still applicable today, hundreds of years later. And one of the beautiful things there is really around how you can be grateful for things, very basic things, like this glass of water right here. You know, like I could have been in a situation right now where I didn't have access to clean drinking water.
True.
And so when we're talking about grit, a lot of the times when you're facing this problem and you're struggling to get through it, a lot of us just see the problem. And so accepting that you're on a journey helps you understand that this is just a means to an end. And then when you start being grateful for what you already have, it makes you turn back and look at where you've come from. And it also makes you grateful for what you have access to today. And a lot of these things are simple. You've got shoes to wear.
Yeah.
You're not in a wheelchair. You can walk. You have the use of both of your hands.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times you think, oh no, I don't have anything to be grateful for. There's a lot that every single one of us can be grateful for. Yeah. Everything from the most poor, struggling person, there's one thing that person can be grateful for. Yeah. So that's the second one. And the third one is that if you look at your life right now, here today, you are living someone else's absolute best dream possible.
That is true.
And I think that's difficult to fathom in a lot of cases because you don't have the frame of reference. When you start thinking about it, having the opportunity to learn a skill like programming, never mind having the struggle. There's people that will almost kill to have that opportunity just to struggle with the programming problem or the job problem that you have right now. And so if you start contextualizing it in these three ways, it becomes really easy for you to say, okay, I can stick through this. You know, acknowledging it's a journey.
Yep.
A little bit of negative visualization and gratitude, and realizing that what you've done here today, where you are right now, is someone's biggest dream, and they would love to have the opportunity to live your life, right? Those three things.
You're nailing it. You really are. You're really speaking to me personally deep down. I had a chat with one of my friends from Detroit, Sydney, and we were just speaking about expanding Melsoft Academy into Detroit. And he was saying, it's not gonna fly here. It's not gonna work. And I was like, why? Why not? This is America. And he said, in that city specifically, people are just worried about not killing each other. People have guns flying around and gangs going on. They're not even thinking about opening a computer to learn programming. They just don't want to die. And I was like, no ways. then I think of the issue going on in Israel and Palestine. I don't know which side of the fence you are on that. I'm not going to go deep into politics, but there are people that don't have shelter, they don't have food, they don't have water, and they're just hopeless at this point. And here we are in these beautiful air-conditioned offices complaining about, oh, my coffee doesn't have enough sugar in it. Can you imagine how
It's silly,
entitled
right?
we've become? Yeah.
So on that point, Detroit's actually got a very, very nice burgeoning startup scene.
Yeah.
And I think it might be the person who you've been speaking to's personal frame of reference.
I hope so.
And I can tell you out of experience with research that I've done, a lot of these old car factories that's been dilapidated are, well, not a lot of them, but some of them are being repurposed as co-working space for startups.
Really?
Right? And so there's definitely an environment where that could work. But I think it comes down to the person's mentality. You primarily get two different modalities of thinking in those types of scenarios. You get survival and thrival, right? And if you're in survival mode, it's very difficult to think about thriving. And the two modalities are very different. Survival is really focusing on zero-sum games. For me to win, someone else needs to lose. And the unfortunate reality is that in poverty and war-stricken areas, that is the predominant modality of thinking that people are in. But when you look at thrival thinking, and most entrepreneurs are in this modality of thinking, they think about positive sum game. How can I add value to other people's lives? Because the value will come back at some point.
True.
Right? And how can I create scenarios where everyone wins? And if you think about it, that's actually how the human race is. Every single one of us sitting here today has produced more value than we consume. I'm going to say that again.
Yeah.
Every single one of us produce more value than we consume. That means there's more than enough value to go around. There's more than enough food, there's more than enough resources, and we'll create more. And so when you look at these two different modalities, the real problem that you need to solve is how do you help people go from, oh damn, I need to be in survival mode, to change their mindset to be, how do I go into thrival mode? And you'll notice that people who are in thrival mode, and you'll see them on the street, they think about the world differently.
Yeah.
And they will almost always seek to help you first. And you won't even know why. And you'll be a little bit confused, especially if you're sitting in the survival modality, right? But helping people cross that journey, that's what I see as the solution for a lot of these problems that we see in the world. It's not a zero-sum game, it's a positive-sum game. How can we all win? How can we all help each other? And then the question of the vehicle factories in Detroit can be repurposed as startup co-working spaces where we can produce value together that takes the city and makes it what it was in its heyday.
Okay, so tell me, let's say you are in this situation where you're currently in survival mode. You're 20 years old. You've just, by the grace of God, you did matric and you passed it. But you don't have any funds to take you further to university or anything like that. But you have a laptop and an internet connection. What would be the first thing that you would do to start taking yourself from survival to thriving?
So I'll tell you this, that if you've got a laptop and an internet connection, you have exactly the same tools that I had when I started. I think when it comes to survival mode, the problem is that you're not aware that you're in survival mode. So I think that's the first step, is just realize you are in survival mode. Realize that there's a thing like that. Realize that this could be limiting. Realize that in survival scenarios, you do not focus on creating collaborative, positive sum relationships with people.
You just want to get to.
You want to get. You're selfish.
Yeah.
Right? And so, I'd say that the quickest and easiest way to move from survival mode into thrival mode is to just give first.
Give.
Just give first, and expect nothing in return. Absolutely nothing. If you even come with the implicit expectation that you're going to get something back, you're actually in survival mode masquerading as thrival.
Ooh.
Right? And that's a problem because you're unaware of it. So I'd say give and expect nothing in return. And that is to help your friend, to do whatever. And try and identify the people who are in thrival mode and give to them because they will reciprocate. Right? If you give to people who are in survival mode, they will just take everything you have. Right? So identify the people who are in thrival mode, give first. Right? And then I'd say that every single skill that I've learned, everything.
Yeah.
And I'm literally saying everything. Behavioral psychology knowledge, books, programming, cybersecurity, machine learning has been learned with an internet connection and a laptop. Most of them, in fact, 99% of them came from free resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's scary to think of that, right? And so the only thing that's stopping you is the way you think about the world, your modality that you're in, and your willingness and ability to just stick at it and learn.
Yeah. So it's never ever, oh, I don't, and I did say this once in one, and I always do say it. A lot of people, why I think people are not advancing as much as they want in life is because they would rather point fingers at other people or situations or the government to say, I'm not where I am because I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. At the same time, this person has a cell phone. They have internet connection, they have food, they have everything, but they are pointing. And I found that the day I started taking full ownership of my own faults and saying, okay, I lost this client, not because my devs messed up, but because I failed to manage the project. I lost this because I didn't do this. My life just exponentially started to explode because now I could fix the problems that I was facing. Yeah.
It's very interesting. There's a very famous book, and you might have read it, called Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
But I think it's Napoleon Hill who wrote that book. And in there, he speaks of a man who's basically paralyzed. And this person was heading to live a treacherous, boring life in a hospital bed. But he decided, this person, that I'm not going to take accountability. There's a difference between accountability and responsibility. Accountable means that you are the person who needs to answer when the auditors come, right? Responsibility means you have the ability to respond to the scenario. Right? And so he said that for this year, as my last attempt at life, I will accept 100% responsibility for everything in my life. 100%. I choose how to respond to every single scenario. And it's me who needs to respond, not someone else. And that person's life changed completely. I can't remember the details of that person, but that really stuck with me. And so when you blame someone else, you're giving someone else the ability to respond, right? And you're just playing the victim. And guess what? You're going to stay the victim.
Yep.
But if you accept a responsibility, then you're empowered. Then you've got agency. Then you can choose to, do I go drinking with friends and spend money? Or do I stay home and learn this incredibly valuable skill that will, at the end of the day, help me make a positive impact in the world, right? Both of them are responding to the scenario. The one is usually a lot easier, and it's an implicit response. You don't really know you're doing that. The other one is very deliberate. And I'll encourage you to think slowly and make that deliberate choice in making or crafting responses to scenarios regardless of what the circumstances is. And I think the important takeaway there is there's people who have been in your situation or even worse situation than you are in now.
Yeah.
And they've managed to succeed. So why not you?
Why not you?
And unfortunately, I come from a privileged background, right? If I compare it to like the world's average population, I had an internet connection at that age. Yes, I didn't have much friends, but at least I knew that I wanted to learn the skill, right?
Yeah.
And so I did come from a privilege when it comes to that, right? I had all of these resources already, and I think that the average person today is already a lot better off than I was back then, right? So
yeah. Let's dive into today. What you're doing today. Tell us about Otinga.io.
Sure. So I think one of the most important things to answer is why. Why Otinga?
Yeah.
And it comes down to this very fundamental belief. The world has been improved exponentially by leveraging technology and scientific advancement. Currently, a lot of businesses struggle with innovating. And innovation is the lifeblood of this positive sum game that we see in this world. And at Otinga, we believe that if we can help large companies who's got the most resources and the ability to execute on these innovation, that's a very important point. We can help them innovate. We're pushing the world forward in an incredible way without us having to have access to those resources. And so if we look at ways that you can make or have an impact at scale, this is why we do Otinga. Why we help large enterprises innovate, and why specifically large enterprises, because they've got the resources and means to actually have an impact and take what we help them with and amplify that. What does Otinga do? We use everything from frameworks to hackathons, ideathons, AI to help businesses innovate, to do things in a different way, in an innovative way that produces a lot more value. And if we do that well, we get rewarded, but so does the world. And so that's the why and a little bit of the how. We've got a platform that makes it super easy for people to host their own hackathons, and we're busy working on a free product that anyone can use that leverages large language machine learning models to really accelerate innovation at scale. Teach people how to innovate, how to think innovatively, how to spot problems, help them mature their understanding of the problems, and then finally equip decision makers with the necessary information to be able to start moving in the right direction, right? And this will be a free tool that we'll be releasing. Certain of those features will be paid, obviously, like all other SaaS solutions.
Yeah.
But this tool will really help accelerate a lot of businesses' capability to innovate.
So tell me, in the hackathon space, what are some of the products that you guys have made, or the people that attend your hackathons? What are some of the most exciting things that have come out?
Now, I've attended and facilitated many different hackathons, and some of the stuff that really inspired me was little robots that drive on the ocean floor, cleaning up the ocean floor.
Wow.
Some of these ideas have been quite far-fetched. Drones that fly around and plant trees.
Wow.
And not all of them are particularly sustainable as business ideas, but I think it's also important to embrace the novelty of these pieces of innovation. Because if we look at how the microwave oven that we know today has been invented, it was by accident, right? And it's about someone tinkering and playing around with tools and then eventually realizing, oh, the chocolate bar in my upper shirt pocket melted when I put it close to this device. And then they realized, well, what if I can contain this in a box. How can heat food, right? Change the world forever, right? And so a lot of the times it's about embracing these novel ideas and helping people understand how to first come up with these novel ideas. And then most importantly, how can you actually practically implement this in the world? That's probably the most difficult thing, but it's also where the most value comes from. Because everyone's got an idea, right? I mean, you know 10, 20, 50,000 people who's all got an idea for an app.
Yeah.
Almost none of them even do anything as the work that people do within a hackathon to really think about it, put together a prototype, anything like that. And then most people even of that don't really put that into practice and build a business around it or build a product around it, right?
Yeah.
And so ideas are a dime a dozen, but it's a multiplier. So if you've got a 0 out of 10 idea, if you've got 10 out of 10 execution, it's still 0, right? But if you've got a 1 out of 10 idea with 10 out of 10 execution, it's a 10 out of 10 project or product. If it's a 10 out of 10 idea and a 1 out of 10, you still get the 10, right? But if it's a 10 out of 10 idea, 10 out of 10 execution, you get a unicorn.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I love that, what you've just said. There are a lot of students that I have at Melsoft and clients that want to come and get their apps done, and they will make you sign a 40-page NDA saying, I don't want to share anything about my idea. My idea is so special. There's no way I'm telling you anything about it. And if only people would realize that ideas mean absolutely fuck all if you don't have the execution. Yeah.
I usually see that as a measure of someone's innovation maturity if they lead with a non-disclosure agreement. Most ideas, I'll be honest, most people will never steal your ideas.
True.
And if your idea doesn't have an embedded moat, meaning a way to make it difficult for other people to compete with you, then it's maybe an idea that should be shared, right? And I'll use a great example. So Elon Musk with Tesla, everyone's like, yeah, Tesla is competing and they're doing so well and all of this. Guess what? All of their stuff's open source.
Oh, wow. Meaning anyone can come and replicate.
You and I, today, can go take all Tesla's patents, all of them. They don't have patents, but they're intellectual property, and go and start our own car company tomorrow, right? Nothing stops us from doing it. Why isn't there like 50 other Tesla Model S's driving around?
Why?
Execution, right?
So he's saying, here's the path.
There's everything you need, right? And so now someone comes to me and they say, no, I need to sign a 40-page NDA for my idea for an app, right? Where Elon Musk just goes like, here is all the blueprints, all the information, all of it for like the cars that they're making. Here's how we do the gigafactory. Go make your own. And the reason why is because Elon Musk's modality is different. The guy who wants to have you sign the 40-page NDA, survival. Elon Musk doesn't care, right? He explicitly says that publicly, that if you want to come make a better car than we can, please do that. Please come tomorrow and do that for us. Because our mission is not to be the richest company. Our goal is to create electric cars, because digging stuff up under the ground, distilling it, and then lighting it on fire inside a closed compartment while having humans close to it is a dumb idea. It's a dumb idea, lighting stuff on fire that we dig out of the ground to move around, right? There's smarter ways to do this. We want to have the electric car to do that. So
whilst you're on that, what is it that makes Otinga, let's say, out of all the other hackathon companies and things like that, what is it that makes you completely different and unique, that no one can steal your idea?
Look, I think most hackathon companies focuses on a completely different market that we do, and they also don't really focus on the end result. Most hackathon companies focus on the hackathon itself or the innovation itself, where we see that as a means to an end. Is that a defensible moat? No. Anyone can go think of it in that way, right? anyone can go make a Model S.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that they do it, right? And so when I look at some of the feedback we're getting from our clients who's run hackathons before, and then they work with Otinga, the number one piece of feedback that we get is the work that Otinga does moves the needle, right? Whereas normal hackathons are just like a nice little event. We see that as secondary. It's really nice and valuable, but that's secondary. The real way you make innovation valuable and sustainable is by producing results. It needs to go to the bottom line, right? You need to see that revenue line item showing this is our new innovative project, and this is how much money it's made or lost.
And that's the ultimate gauge of whether the hackathon was successful or not just the cool take that was made there.
Exactly.
Interesting. Right. And whilst we're on innovation, we can see that AI is mind-blowingly moving at a very fast pace, and that's just one area. And I know you to be an AI expert. What are the other technologies, including AI, that you are most excited about that are coming out?
So if we look at like every single revolution in the world, the industrial revolutions, all of that, right? Yes, it comes with a lot of pain, right? When the loom was invented and started proliferating in the industrialization of the world, a lot of people who were hand sewing and hand making material or like textiles came and burnt down all the looms because they lost their jobs, right? Because the machine could just do it 50 times faster. So yes, there's pain that comes with it. But if you think today, how incredibly valuable that invention was, and more importantly, how incredibly valuable that revolution was, everyone now has enough clothes to wear, more than enough. We've actually got a problem of too much clothes, right, in the world at the moment. People are throwing away clothes. It's a bad thing, but that's what's happening, right? So when we think about how that's produced immense value, and then we look at things like the bicycle and how you could travel like 10 times further with this tool, I see artificial intelligence as the next generation of tooling. And yes, there are very serious concerns around AGI and making sure that you control it in an effective way. But so that same technological advancements, control mechanisms are akin to that of nuclear technology. Right? It can destroy incredibly, but it can also empower and produce value incredibly.
So it can be used for good or for absolute terror.
Exactly. And most things in the world have that dualistic nature, right? Or that duality. And so with AI specifically, I'm incredibly excited because what's going to happen is we're going to produce more value in a lot shorter period of time for each and every one of us. Imagine being able to watch a podcast like we're recording today that is completely tailored to you, Larreth. All your interests, they just talk about the stuff that you love, right? And it goes into the depth perfectly to the level of depth that you want. That is nearly impossible to do, but that entertainment is on the horizon in the not too distant future. The technology that I'm particularly interested in about now, that I'm excited about, is how you can use artificial intelligence, or more specifically machine learning, to really produce tangible value in the world. And then secondary to that is really how we're going to start seeing a lot more robots. Humanoid robots, cars that are driving themselves, which is in effect a robot, right? Manufacturing robots coming in and doing incredibly valuable things at scale, right? And so now humans' responsibility is moving away from actually doing the work to one step away, saying, how do we do this responsibly? Should we now that the cost of creating cars have gone down like this, right? Should we not stop focusing on making cars that you need to replace every 10 years and maybe start making cars that's upgradable and that can last 50 years, right? And do away with planned obsolescence. because now the incentive structures have changed. And so AI unlocks a lot of advantages that's not necessarily as obvious today, right? But might be incredibly paradigm shifting in the future. And that's what I'm particularly excited about. But also on the other side, the regulation is incredibly important.
I was about to ask, what do you think governments can it even be regulated, and who can regulate it?
So I'll use the comparative example with nuclear technology again, right? Our response in the world towards AI regulation has been a lot faster than the response to social media technology regulation. There it took like maybe 10 to 12 years before the world really woken up and said, we need to regulate this. Data is a problem, privacy, GDPR, POPIA, all of this, right? And by the way, South Africa's got brilliant laws because our law system was tested so robustly in our very sad but colorful history, of South African history, right? It was tested, so it's hardened. Our laws are really good in South Africa, right? And so I foresee us having a very strong, robust AI Regulation Act very, very soon, right? I know it's already under works. But the point that I'm making here is, yes, it can be regulated to a certain degree, but there will always be bad actors that will procure things on the black market or do whatever they need to do bad things, right? And it's about how we as a society respond to that. So if you think about the nuclear arms race, one of the big deterrents was mutually assured destruction, and the other one was we just want to build better weapons, right? And the ability to stop the other weapons, right? And so I think that what will definitely happen is there will be certain institutions. I actually think that what Elon Musk is currently doing with Grok and some of these other AI initiatives is heading in the right direction, because he's looking at it as saying, how do I build AI that's better than anything else so that it's smarter and more capable than any other AI so that I can use it to regulate and control other AI, right?
Do you think Elon Musk is a hero or a villain?
He's a very polarizing character.
Indeed.
And I think it's easy to see some of the things that he's doing as negative, but I think it's also because he comes from a completely different standpoint. He's not looking at what's happening tomorrow. He doesn't care what happens to him. He doesn't care about what happens in 5 years' time. What he cares about is, will the human race survive this century? Right? That's the type of questions that he's asking himself. Will the human race destroy this planet? Maybe.
Possibly,
There's a chance. One wrong move in the nuclear realm and we've got a nice nuclear winter, right? And so if you think about where he's coming from, right, the decisions that he makes, the way that he leads people might seem unpopular. But the reason why is because he's not thinking in the way that everyone else is thinking. And most importantly, he's acted upon it and produced success. There's a lot of people that think that way, don't act. There's a lot of people that think and act, but it hasn't been lucky as he has, right? But I think that if you see it from that lens, it makes a lot more sense. A lot more sense. And then if you look at the Churchills of the world having to make super difficult decisions in wartime, right? I compare some of the decisions that Elon Musk is making to the types of decisions that someone like Roosevelt or like Churchill had to make during those trying times, because they were looking at long-term survivability of their country or of their way of living or whatever it might be, right? And similarly, Elon Musk is looking at that, but from the context of the human race. It's a lot of stuff that those leaders in those war times did. People didn't like, right? But it was for the greater good at the end of the day, right? And similarly, he's doing the same thing. And that's the reason why I think he's polarizing. But I think his long-term vision and ambition is pro-human.
It's good for our race.
Definitely.
Interesting. Let's just quickly go back to AI. So we meet a lot of students that want to learn how to code, break into tech, and AI is here now, especially ChatGPT being the most popular of them all. And some people are now scared that AI is going to take their jobs, or there won't be any need for programmers. There was that little scare with Devin coming out, and then Devin failed. But I wouldn't say Devin has failed completely, because they're definitely still working on it. They are funded. It could be the next big thing. So if you were 20 years old, AI is here, but you still want to break into tech, how would you leverage AI to help you to become a better programmer?
So I'll give you a good example, right? So many years ago, there were messengers that walked around and delivered messages. All of a sudden, the horse became the next thing.
Yep.
Messengers jumped onto the horse. Messengers that kept on walking didn't survive, right? They couldn't compete.
Yeah.
Right? And then you fast forward like maybe 50 years or 100 years or 500 years, depending on where you're looking at and what environment. Let's say, for argument's sake, fast forward many years. Right? Now all of a sudden there's messengers on motorcycles. What do you think happened to the guys that was on the horses?
Destroyed.
Right? Yeah. Today, we just connected every damn piece of the world with a wire. Now we've got the internet. Guess what happened with the messengers on the motorcycles?
Dead again.
Dead again, right?
Yep.
So now I ask you the question, well, how did you survive in each of those? How would you survive in each of those different discipline-specific revolutions? You embrace the new technology, right?
Yeah.
If the horses come out, you're first on the cart. You're the first guy that says, I want a horse. When motorcycles come out, you get the first one off the line, right? You're embracing this technology, right? And leveraging it for as much of the value that it can produce. And when the internet became popular, you're the first guy that develops the mail server or message or instant messaging platform or whatever it is, right? And if you take that mentality, you're adopting the new technology as it comes out, right? And you're accelerating yourself, because I'll ask you the question, right? If you're in a school and you're learning how to deliver messages by foot, or you're learning how to send email, right? Both of them are delivering the same result. The guy who's delivering sending emails is doing a lot better, right? And so it's about how do you wield these new tools and learn how to wield these new tools to produce the most value, right? And so when someone's learning this skill, I'd say that AI could make you very lazy. Hi, I'm Francois. I'm already starting to see patterns of laziness in my own thinking by leveraging AI. And so you need to short circuit that. But secondary is you should be leveraging that tool for everything that it's worth and derive as much value as possible from it, right? Because that's actually the key to succeeding, is identifying the next tool, which might be a Devin, it might be something else.
Yeah.
And then first figuring out exactly how to use it and start using it as quickly as possible. That's the key.
So constantly learning and constantly improving and constantly implementing these tools as they come out is the key. That's the ultimate differentiator between those that will be like, I don't even want to touch this AI thing.
Exactly, yeah.
In terms of in the tech industry as a whole, what are some of the common misconceptions that people have that you think need to be immediately debunked?
So John F. Kennedy said when he announced the focus on the space race that we do things like going to the moon not because they're easy, but because they're hard. Right? I think that if you look at someone that's really good at software development, they do things and it looks easy.
Yeah.
Took years. You don't see what's underneath the surface of the water in that iceberg. Right?
Yeah.
You just see the easiness. So remember that a lot of the things out there are quite difficult. Just understand that and accept that. And then similarly, this is the joke that we always make about programmers underestimating the effort that goes into things. We say, we don't do things because they're easy, but because we thought they were going to be easy. Right? and that's true for everything, right? True. And so I'd say that's the other myth that you should debunk, right? Is that things are going to take a lot longer than you thought, especially when you start out, probably 3 times as long as you thought. Accept it. Be okay with it. Plan for it.
Yeah.
So that's the second one. And the third one is don't ever think that you have arrived. Don't ever think that you've acquired the knowledge and now you can rest on your laurels. You're never going to reach that point, especially in technology. Maybe in a world like, I don't know, Egyptology, it might be a little bit easier. But guess what? Even the world of studying a 2,000-year-old historic civilization changes every single day, right? And so if you think about that, do not expect that in technology you're going to sit back and say, I know this new language and I'm done.
I've made it.
Right?
I don't need to
There's no
learn.
such thing. So keep on learning and derive joy from learning.
Yeah.
Right? So those are the three myths. To summarize, when you see someone else doing something that looks easy, it's because there's a lot of things under the surface of the water that you don't see in this iceberg. The second one is things take longer than you think they will take. And thirdly, you will never stop learning.
Brilliant, brilliant. And last word for otinga.io. What new things can we expect? What are you working on over the next year or two that we should look out for?
Yeah, so we're in very, very early conversations to start leveraging the tools that we're building and some of the stuff that's on our roadmap to help organizations project into the future, to see what the future of their organization and the technology adoption of their organization will look like in the future. I think being able to peer into the future, even if it's just a little bit of time, is incredibly valuable in today's world. And so that is one of the things that we're experimenting with is trying to predict the future in terms of innovation, what will work and what won't work, and help businesses make more intelligent decisions in that direction.
Brilliant. And how can people reach out to you if they want to have some Otinga flavor?
So the first point of contact is always going to be our website, otinga.io. You can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn if you want to. I'm sure we can put that in the show notes, my URL. And I think most importantly, just engage on whatever platform makes sense to you, and try and live in this world of thrival, where you can give value first, and you'll have a really good time on this journey we call life.
Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a fantastic chat with Francois van der Merwe from Otinga. We learned a lot today. We learned grit and determination is one of the key things that you need to succeed. We learned that you need to have a mindset of giving before you give without even expecting anything in return. That way you will create a lot of value that everyone around you and everyone in the world can benefit from that. We learned that it is so important to constantly be learning and constantly be improving, especially in technology, because new things are coming out every day. So if you are not constantly upskilling yourself, you're dead. So thank you so much, Francois. Thank you so much for the amazing, amazing conversation. Guys, if you want to reach out, you know what to do. Otinga.io is the play, and follow them on social media. Will you be announcing hackathons anytime soon that people can apply for? Yeah, we do announce hackathons from time to time. Yeah. But we primarily focus on business hackathons. But yeah, definitely keep your eyes open. It was an absolute pleasure. You're a fantastic host. Thank you. I really enjoyed sharing this time with you, Larreth. This has been really, really nice. And nice to talk about things that's not necessarily always talked about, which I enjoy. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. See you next week.